Pay attention.
Have a remnant who will not take the mark. There shall be a northern remnant in Scandinavia and in Finland. And there will be pockets of remnants in China, in India, scattered around the world from country to country. And the Texas and the Alabama remnants and the Israeli remnant that is in exile, that will be in exile in Jordan. He says these writings are accurate and true and can be trusted and depended upon in accuracy by God's scattered remnants around the world without end. In other words, he said the remnants can take this prophecy and trust in it and depend on it, that God said there's no mistake. He says, let the surviving Russian soldiers, after the nuclear war, the midpoint of the tribulation, World War III, let the Russian soldiers surrender if they will. But don't negotiate with them. Show them the full Azovmena videos and the prophecy that they understand they need to fight, to live and fight again. Allow them to return to Russia through the Baltic Sea, to St. Petersburg, or allow some who can be trusted to fight in Ukraine. But don't be naive. The coming onslaught of the Antichrist when he attacks Ukraine from the west and southwest. Chinese will surely attack Russia from the south. In other words, the Chinese are going to invade Russia from the south across Kazakhstan and further east. The Russian soldiers remaining in western Ukrainian cities will need to know that their motherland, Russia, will need them, and they should be allowed to freely return to Russia. That the Russians can fight against the Chinese, who will be in league with the Antichrist. Apparently, the Russians are never going to be in league with the Antichrist, but the Chinese will. Surely there will arise a brotherhood of the Church of the Living God in Russia, even in pockets of survivors in Siberia and in the lands from the Volga River to the highlands of central Russia. Azovmena 2. There are many, many details I cannot share with you from this prophecy, but that gives you a basis of the remnants of what's going to take place. You see, I preached for a long, long time. May will be 50 years I've been preaching. And for a long, long time I've been preaching. It's been in my spirit. It can't go on like it is. It just can't go on day after day, month after month, year after year. We get up in the morning, we go to work, we live our lives, and year after year passes, and nothing really big changes. It can't go on forever like that. I preached and I preached and I preached in Ukraine. It started with COVID.
It's about to come to pass. I hope y'all paying attention.
Will never, ever be the same from now until the rapture. Remember what he says, it's like a woman giving birth. The birth pains will get closer and closer together and more violent. It started with the COVID virus, now war in Europe. This summer will probably be war between Israel and Iran. Then it's going to be, and when is China going to attack Taiwan? They're flying over right now. Things, because of the weakness of the American government, they gave up, under Obama, they gave up Syria. Russia is now building a massive, massive naval base in Syria. America gave up couple months ago, 3 months ago, gave up Afghanistan. They're giving up Ukraine. They gave up, under Bush, they gave up northern Georgia. America has become weaker and weaker because of our sins, because of the sins of our nation. The apathy is pathetic in this country. The apathy is pathetic, not realizing that nuclear war is on our threshold. And that's been the question. From Russia, from Moscow, the bishops want to know, is this nuclear war now? And I say, no, probably 2026 will be the nuclear war. But yes, you Russians, you will take even Kiev. But you won't take Western Ukraine. Your casualties are going to be so great, just like Azovmena says. I didn't know how it was going to happen, but it's happened. You need to get serious about serving the Lord. I had a big disagreement with a man who hates America. This is what is taught in schools now. America's terrible. I hear the kids at school, America's terrible. This is the worst country in the world, Miss Bar. I said, no, this is the best country in the world. Go out and live for a year any other country in the world. You don't have freedom in any country like we have in this country, and we're losing it. because the church is asleep. Oh, everything will be okay. You know, I don't, you know, inflation, the government's going to give me money. The government's going to take care of the government. The government is turned over to the devil right now. And shame on you if you don't vote in an election. Shame on you. You say you're a Christian and don't go vote in an election. Let me tell you one story, and I shared it at our church, and some of them like, I was so bold at that time, they were afraid to say anything. But I said, Jesus, he told them, if a man lusts after a woman in his heart, he's committed sin. He's committed adultery, even though he didn't sleep with her. He committed sin with her in his heart. And we'll go to hell for that. And what I said to our church in Oklahoma City, Assembly of God, I said, if you vote for somebody, you know that person is going to support abortion, and you purposely vote for him, you think God's going to ignore that? That you're putting the scalpel in the hands of that politician to murder millions of babies? You are just like the person who lusts after a woman in his heart. It's sin, and it's sin to vote for somebody who you know is going to commit abortion. You see,
Amen.
I tell people in Houston this week and at our church in Oklahoma City and everywhere I go, I've never once in my life been accused of telling people what they want to hear. If the church, if the pastors would get down to business and start preaching against abortion, against homosexuality, well, we don't want to offend anybody. I had a big disagreement with some of the teachers from school a couple of years ago, and they were talking about our homosexual brothers and sisters. I said, excuse me, there is no such thing as a homosexual or a lesbian Christian. My aunt is the pastor of a Lutheran church in Duncan, and she is a lesbian. What do you mean there's no such thing? I said, you mark my word, there is no such thing as a homosexual or lesbian Christian. It does not exist. They will all go to hell, and if you love them, you have to tell them that.
That's right.
There was a man, big Presbyterian church in San Francisco, Menlo Park Presbyterian Church, thousands of members.
Agreed.
And they worked with us, with me and Kid. We brought in kids, did surgery, we did everything to help kids. So, Brother Bob Arrington, his factory was right next to Candlestick Stadium in San Francisco. Well-off man, wife's a psychologist. He's one of the trips, his last trip over to Kiev, he said, you know, I'm on the deacon board at our church. We've lost 1,500, 2,000 members because we, accept homosexuals now. So we had a couple thousand who left, but we still have 3,000, 2,500. He said, but now we're voting, as soon as I get back from this trip, Phil, we're voting on our first lesbian pastor. And I said, Bob, it's sin. It's abomination. Your children, your grandchildren will be snared and brought into that. You will have grandchildren who get involved with that sin if you don't stand against it. And I know you've been a deacon in that church for decades, and you're a wealthy man, and they all look up to Bob Arrington. But if you vote for that woman to be a lesbian, who's a lesbian, to be your pastor, one of your pastors, God will turn against you, Bob.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what happened. He died right after that. We have to take a stand. I know what interrogations are about. One of the Ukrainians last week, Christian told me the story. One of the Ukrainian leaders was captured, and they took him in, and the Russian officers, they were interrogating him. Of course, he was tied up, but they didn't understand he had a bomb taped to his body underneath his clothes. It was, a lot of snow. The people don't have, God is so omnipotent. Not so omnipotent, he is omnipotent. And they didn't have water to drink, so what did he do? He sent snow that they could melt the snow to have water all over Ukraine. The Russian troops, all of their trucks, their thousands and thousands of vehicles, they got stuck in the snow because it melted. The Ukrainian army blew the bridges that they couldn't come against Kiev, and the trucks, hundreds of them, were spinning their wheels trying to get out of the mud. And these old Russian tires, they blew out hundreds and thousands of tires, blew out, and got stuck for a week or two. The church is praying. I remember when war was in Kiev, and we were praying. I was lying on the floor, and one division from Western Ukraine was coming that supported democracy. Another division was coming from the south that supported Russia. And there was a battle getting ready to take place in Kiev. 100 people died that day and fighting all around us. Our women came in that morning when we were praying, and they said, oh, Philip, we passed the building just by our church to the north, and the Russian supported people, they were holding the inside, and all of them surrendered except 3, and they burned them alive because they wouldn't surrender. These are the people coming to our church that Thursday morning. We are in trouble. And it is time to get over the apathy and get serious and take a stand. And preachers have to call a spade a spade. And those who don't are going to be washed out. And those who are, God will lift them up. And
Amen.
in the
Hallelujah.
end, they will be rewarded and have great authority in heaven.
Go to God. It's time.